With us today, Patrick Armstrong, CEO, Snaile, Canada's Parcel Locker Company. Happy New Year, Patrick, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you. It's safe to say that having parcels among other home deliveries has exploded. Patrick, give us some background on parcel deliveries, specifically buildings that do not have concierge service.
I think in general, before we get into that all buildings have a misconception as to where all the parcel deliveries come from. So most buildings, whether it's a condo, a rental, a concierge or non-concierge building, believe that all deliveries are coming in from Canada Post. But in fact, most deliveries are not coming in from Canada Post. They're coming in from UPS, Purolator, FedEx, DHL, Intelcom, which is a big Amazon delivery company in Canada, Instacart, you might be familiar with, Good Foods, HelloFresh. So in a rental building, if there's no concierge, most of your deliveries, if you're not home, you're not going to get. So you can end up with a notice delivery card. You'll have to go to a depot or to a retail location to be able to go and pick it up, right? And hopefully it's close. So some of the rental buildings have done nothing, and so they allow that to happen, right? Some of them have put in Canada Post boxes, which are parcel lockers specific to Canada Post and only for Canada Post. So that takes care of a small segment of all the deliveries. Mm-hmm. And then sort of the forward-thinking, sort of larger landlords, we'll call them, or maybe ones that want to cater a bit more to the tenant experience, would also put in smart lockers. So they have smart lockers plus Canada Post lockers together to kind of solve the overall delivery issue in a building.
I see. When it comes to parcel delivery, what is the difference between concierge and non-concierge buildings? I mean, aside from the obvious, of course.
Of course. The main difference is the door's locked. There's no one to open it in a non-concierge building. So what that means is delivery people show up and they can't get in for the most part unless they're Canada Post. So Canada Post has a key which is there from legacy mail laws, so they can get into a building to deliver letter mail. And they're using that same key to deliver parcels. So the rest, which is the bulk of the deliveries, cannot get in. So most of the big delivery companies, like the FedExes of the world, they'll follow standard delivery procedures and they'll leave a notice delivery card, and the resident will have to get that card and go get it, like we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. But then there's a new subset of delivery people, and they are paid per piece. And so they're highly motivated to deliver. So they'll get into a building no matter what. So a couple of ways that they're getting in is buzzer bombing. So they're putting all kinds of entering into the enter phone, like unit 302, 405, 406, just randomly looking for a resident to open the door. If that doesn't work, they can follow in another carrier. They could follow in another resident. But anyway, they really try to get in. So once they're in, they dump the box and they take a picture, and that's how they validate delivery. But doing that causes a bunch of issues for the building operationally. So the first issue it causes is that it promotes theft. So we've got loose boxes all over the place. It can be an Amazon box, well branded. Everybody knows what it is. Mm-hmm. It could be a HelloFresh box. They know it's $100 of food. So that's available to residents if they steal from each other. But more importantly, from thieves from the outside. Mm-hmm. So thieves from the outside know there's loose boxes everywhere, and they will break into the building and start taking these easy pickings theft items.
Right.
Yeah. And then it also causes other issues with fire code violations. So if a box or a bunch of boxes, parcels, are blocking a hallway or a vestibule and there's a fire, the residents cannot safely get out. And so that becomes a egress issue, a fire code violation. The other issue it causes is that no one planned for all these parcels everywhere. So back when the buildings were designed, the sprinkler systems were not there to service a huge cardboard fire full of somebody's boxes. So that becomes a excessive combustible fire code violation. So that's in the the non-concierge building. In the concierge building, it becomes more of a labor issue. So the concierge presumably is not allowing boxes to pile up. They're going to take them. But our surveys show that it's about 10 minutes per parcel for a concierge to administer. So that's the time it takes for them to get it from the carrier, to sign for it, to log the tracking number in the logbook, to then go to a storage facility, usually like a storage closet, parcel room, whatever, figure out where it's going to go, log that location back in the book, notify the resident, assuming the resident comes down the first time, ID checking the resident, looking in the logbook for the parcel, going back to the parcel room, getting the parcel, and then giving it to the resident, right? So that whole process takes 10 minutes. So If it's taking 10 minutes today and we've got an escalating e-commerce volume, then all it's becoming is an increasing cost center to the building. And so in our opinion, obviously, that doesn't make a lot of sense to keep throwing money at a problem that's just escalating. So those are the major two differences between the two.
Right, right. I see. Okay. So how has the pandemic exacerbated the issues surrounding parcel delivery?
Well, for us, our network throughout the country has grown in volume that we service by 57%. So the way we calculated that was we took a sampling of existing buildings in May 2019 and we compared it to the same buildings in May 2020 and looked at the volume. And so it's gone up 57% in parcel volume.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's supported by StatsCan. So StatsCan came out recently with their numbers, and their numbers say that e-commerce sales in Canada are up 99.3% between February and May. So obviously more e-commerce sales is going to lead to more e-commerce volume, which is what we service. And then that's also starting to come across in tenant surveys that are now seeing the tenants saying, hey, I got a lot of parcels and I got a problem. If you look at the Informa tenant preference survey of 2020 this year, it's showing that 66.3% of residents want smart lockers. So obviously they're also feeling the pain that the deliveries that don't come through a Canada Post are not being serviced properly at a building. So I think the COVID as overall has shone a light on an existing problem, and because it's a bigger problem, people are paying attention.
Wow, wow. Okay, there has been some options available to owners. So give us the good, the bad, the ugly. Lay it out.
Well, there are a few options for sure. The first that we always recommend to our customers is that they go and get Canada Post parcel boxes. It will only service Canada Post. It will not service all Canada Post because there is sometimes a capacity issue and a parcel sizing issue that doesn't even fit into that locker. But at least it takes away some, and the beauty of it is it's free. So Canada Post will give it to you for free.
Okay.
But it leaves the vast majority of deliveries unserviced in that sort of a scenario. The second option we've seen, which is not popular, and I don't know how many buildings have implemented it, is they've banned deliveries altogether. And
Sorry, so wait, banning deliveries altogether. I don't see that being, like you said, a popular option. Sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
no, it's fine. It's not a popular option. I mean, residents don't want that, especially when they're paying high rents or they're paying a mortgage in a condo. I mean, clearly that doesn't make any sense. But it has been talked about, and I'm sure there's all kinds of legalities around it. I don't understand how you could ban somebody from receiving a parcel to a legitimate municipal address and they're paying to live there. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it's an option. It's been done in the States, so I don't know how rampant it is in Canada, but it's certainly been done. The third option would be to hire more labor. So we talked about the concierge time, but the industry as a whole has actually deemed a new position, and they're calling it a parcel guard. So it used to be, a security guard. They've now hired another guard, and that is the parcel guard. And so their job is full-time to manage parcels. So again, if you looked at it as an operational case, it doesn't really make sense because it's going to be an escalating cost, right? And then if you left it alone to the concierge, which I didn't talk about earlier, but it puts a lot of pressure on the concierge's regular duties, right? So the caliber of the building could suffer because you've removed the reason the concierge is there and you've told them to deal with parcels, right? So that could be an issue in that sort of a scenario. And then the fourth would be that you look at tech, right? So there's certainly software out there that helps you manage that logging process, which makes it quicker, but it doesn't solve it. It just helps you, right? Then there's hardware and software, which would be the incumbent, which are smart lockers, right? So that's the business we're in.
Right.
And those help you from a software standpoint, but also physically to manage those parcels coming in. So there's no longer labor. And what I like about that is that it's a repetitive job and it's an escalating job, and it doesn't take a lot of skill to manage parcels, but people's skill can be used better in a building than administering a parcel. So we could probably service 95, 96, 97% of parcels coming in. Certainly there's going to be some that might require money, or maybe some is really big, like a 80-inch TV. There'll be stuff like that where we can't, but we can take over the bulk with a smart locker.
Right, right. As an industry supplier, how are you finding the response from both concierge and non-concierge buildings to smart lockers?
Well, for us, it's been amazing. I mean, Fortunately for us, COVID has been great. I mean, our business was growing exponentially before, but COVID certainly accelerated that. We did, for example, in December, 42 installs alone.
Wow.
We've got over 80 on the books for Q1, and Q1 just started, so we expect that to obviously accelerate. I think that COVID is also, showing these landlords that there's going to be other consequences like violations and fines, and people are wanting this amenity. So all in all, I think the reception's been awesome, and I think that in Canada there's a long runway ahead for smart lockers in terms of rollout, probably another 3 to 5 years of high growth before it starts to get into saturating the buildings that really need it. The larger the building, the more it needs it, and the smaller ones will come later.
Right, right. So I'm sure we all know the answer to this, but what is the likeliness of ever returning back to pre-COVID parcel volume?
My opinion would be close to zero, and there's a few reasons for that. The first is that we've lost a lot of brick and mortar, unfortunately. So that means that people's choice has been diminished, and usually when that happens, they will consolidate somewhere else, and the natural consolidation is obviously e-commerce. The second is that there's changes and will be changes to work from home, work from office. There'll be more flexibility, which then means that people will be home more often, able to accept more deliveries at home. It'll also mean that they will ship less to the office, which was a trend before COVID. So people were worried about theft at home, so they would ship their personal to the office. But if you're not in the office, you're going to ship it from home, right? And then you're also, because you're not going to the office as much, you're not going to be out in the world as much, so you're not going to go to the brick and mortar as much, but you still need the stuff. So you're going to end up at e-commerce. Take COVID out entirely, we still had a natural growth rate anyway. So even if we didn't have COVID, we would have still seen in our network a 20% growth year over year. So it's been a year. So we've already got that 20%, whether it's built in or not to the COVID, flare up, but it's there. So there was that. And then the elephant in the room is that millennials, age demographic, buy online. I mean, in a 2018 survey, 67% preferred to buy online. I would wager that that's up. So even if we use 2018 numbers, they are also the largest workforce age demographic in Canada. So as they become older and older and get more and more earning power and more disposable income, they'll start to take over the boomer, but they'll take all of their disposable income and stick it predominantly in e-commerce. So I think that will also fuel another sort of hike similar to COVID in a couple of years.
You're booming either way.
Either way, it's a boom.
So before we go, are there any other thoughts you would like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I think from our experience in the industry that most buildings don't have like a strategy. They're not looking at parcels as sort of the whole picture in a building. They're not including it in their operations. It's sort of like an afterthought. So I think most buildings, whether condos, rentals, concierge, non-concierge, need a strategy about how we're going to handle parcels, how we're going to handle the growth of parcels, how are we going to make this an amenity that's part of the building always so that residents can have it. But with all that, more importantly, will become the need for a budget line item. So you're going to have to allocate a line item that is going to be parcel management for my portfolio or my building or what have you.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for coming in. I'm sure the pandemic has created a monster that you're happy to conquer. I hope you come back with more information, and you have a great new year.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Thanks.